Hi again, Chrissy here at A Little Glam, A Lot of Mom. I'm a homeschool mom of 5 from early elementary to senior high school / dual enrolled in college. Today's video is a plan with me video as I put together a medieval ages elementary history unit block. I have my planner here with me. This is the Minimalist Homeschool Notebook Planner by School Nest. Tabs, I have a felt tip pen and lots of resources. So this block is inspired by, or it all started because of this read aloud Red Wall by Brian Jacques. It's a history block, so as our history spine, we're using Story of the World Volume 2, and we'll come back to that. This planner doesn't have a section for unit study planning, so I'll be using the space in the month in review in between the months I plan on blocking out for this. By the time you're watching this video, we have already started this study. The time I'd like to allot for this block is 2.5 hours of focus time twice a week for 8 to 10 weeks. However, that is very, very flexible. The next step in my planning process is to take inventory of all the spines that I'll be utilizing within this block. For language arts, again, that is Redwall by Brian Jacques, along with Redwall, a family learning guide inspired by Brian Jacques' Redwall, and this is by Amber over at Hearth Magic. For math, I will be using Math Art and Drawing Games for Kids by Karen Tripp. And again, I mentioned that for history, we will be using Story of the World of Volume 2, The Fall of Rome to the Rise of the Renaissance. So next I will break down each of those subjects and just jot down some of my lesson outlines and work. So let's start with language arts. Most of the work that we'll do for language arts is to be done in the main lesson block books and through some suggestions out of the learning guide. So for example, some of our favorite work is for language arts is character journaling, becoming familiar with the characters in these stories, tapping into different perspectives as the kids create an illustration of the character they encounter in each chapter, and write or narrate, for my youngest, a description of some of the characters. A creative writing prompt in the learning guide is to create a boogeyman's tale, so we'll be doing that. We'll also learn and practice foreshadowing. Earlier this year we worked on symbolism in writing through a book guide, and so I'm excited to see another writing literary device. Of course, there's always copy work in our main lesson books, geography through map work, and we'll get back to that, as more of that will also be interwoven through the history aspect of this study block. So here's an example of how we practice grammar in a simple way just through copywork in a main lesson book. We utilize beeswax block crayons and colored pencils or regular sized beeswax crayons for underlining. I create a key, so for example, underline the proper nouns in purple, or do a double yellow underline for common nouns, and so on. As I mentioned, the spine for math is Math Art and Drawing Games for Kids. I've shared about this resource in the past. It's a project-based math guide, and so in it I found a few art projects that will tie in wonderfully with this block, and so I'm going to tap those out and become familiar with the project and the supply list. Frank Lloyd Wright's Geometric Stained Glass Art, because this is an art-based book. A lot of the projects are inspired by an artist, which is great if you want to extend into an artist study. We won't be doing that with this unit. But stained glass windows played a multifaceted role in the medieval ages, serving as a medium for religious expression, artistic brilliance, innovation, and societal representation. So we will be weaving in angles, geometry, parallel lines, patterns, along with the discussion of these topics. Another stained glass inspired project, rose window stained glass, are often found in Gothic architecture. They're usually found and divided into symmetrical sections. And our last, Spine History of the World, Volume 2, The Middle Ages, the Fall of Rome to the Rise of the Renaissance. This resource is brand new to us. I've heard good things, but looking at it, I'm hoping it's not too dry for the kids. I'm not sure how this is going to fit in with us. I'm thinking I will read it out loud as the kids are building or creating a project. I am most definitely not in a rush to make our way through this, and my expectations are not to make our way through this within my goal and my time allotted for this unit study or this main lesson block. I'm going to look into possibly getting my hands on the audio version of it so that I can just play it in the background. The only physical work I would like to attach to this are timelines and map work. And if you're curious, it reads, told in the straightforward, engaging style that has become Susan Wise Bauer's trademark. The Story of the World covers the sweep of human history from ancient times until the present. Africa, China, Europe, the Americas. Find out what has happened all around the world in the centuries before ours and in our time. This read aloud series is designed for parents to share with elementary school children or for older readers to enjoy alone. Introduce your child to the marvelous story of the world's civilizations. Okay, let's recap. So far we've hit our goal timelines, so our focus time, and then we have our 3 spines. So we have language arts and our spine for language arts, and then also some just like lesson outlines and work that will be happening in language arts, math, and some of those 2 math projects, and we've tapped those out. And then history, which is pretty simple because it's in a read aloud format, and then the only work attached to history will be timelines and some map work. And I'm going to jot down my history ideas and work. And then after that, I am going to start with a book list. So that's taking inventory of what we already have, what I've brought in, and I'm going to share that book list with you. DK Eyewitness Workbooks, Medieval Life with Fun Fill-in Activities and Fast Facts. This is divided into sections. The book starts with fast facts on topics including castles and knights, feudalism, and ends with charts of famous medieval people and rulers. There are puzzles, plus there are hands-on activities such as designing your own shield, making a stained glass window project, and playing the medieval game of fox and geese. A Medieval Feast, this non-fiction picture book about life in medieval times, features detailed illustrations about the king coming to visit. The lord and lady must work quickly to prepare for his arrival, and it's the process of how it takes weeks to ready rooms and set up tents and prepare the feast itself. A few independent readers here. What are castles and knights? Castles may conjure up a romantic fairy tale world. However, in real life, during the Middle Ages, castles were fortresses, providing shelter and protection for the lord as well as for the peasants who lived on his land. For an army, a lord depended on young soldiers in armor called knights who spent years at the castle learning the skills of warfare. The author of this What Are dives into the history of castles and how they grew from simple wood structures to mighty fortresses in stone. She also explains who could become a knight and what their lives were like. 2 Magic Tree House books, The Night at the Dawn. I'm pretty sure Bella never read this, but Noah did. And then the opposite, I know that Bella read Christmas in Camelot and Noah has not. So this one will be an independent reader for him, and then the other for Bella. Although these readers are too easy for Bella, she'll pair it with the What Are Who Is for this main lesson block. Castles magnified, using the magnifying glass to charge into battle with the search and find history adventure packed with more than 200 things to spot in these awesome illustrations. And The Hawk of the Castle, a story of medieval falconry. And 2 more Nat Geo Kids Knights and Castles sticker activity book for my Luna, and Make This Medieval Castle by Usborne. It's templates to cut out and construct a model of a 14th century castle. All right, I also like to write down our key points or focus points for the main lesson block or unit study to keep us on track to understanding the primary topic and the important aspects within the larger context, such as understanding the structure of feudalism, the structure of classes, if you will, timelines, castles, chivalry, falconry, and cathedrals. My battery died and I had to change it. So we pick up here. Next, I brainstorm projects that will correlate with my key points. So for cathedrals, stained glass windows, which I already shared, would be interwoven with math out of this resource, and I've already tapped that out. So let's move on to my key point for castles. We're going to build one with the Usborne Make This Medieval Castle. You only need a tube of glue and a pair of scissors or a craft knife to turn this book into a superb model of a 14th century castle. The model is packed with accurate historical details, including over 40 cutout figures and props to help you bring the castle to life. Crammed with historical details, over 40 cutout figures and props included. The finished model measures approximately 23 by 18 inches, a portcullis that lifts and falls. So we'll be reading and discussing about castle structure and design, about life in a castle, castle defense, and castle building. My Luna will be working out of this activity workbook to learn about the structure and layout along with the defenses and life in a castle, the Nat Geo sticker activity book, which has several spreads of activity pages on many of these topics. Meanwhile, my Bella can read out loud the chapter My Home, My Castle out of this What Are, Who Is reader book. Finally, the castles magnified. There are so many castle spreads to take in with this book. There are the first castles, stone castles, daily life in the castle, and the courtyard. So the Usborne Build a Castle resource is no longer in print. So I wanted to share another option for building a castle. In the Redwall Family Learning Guide, Amber has a coding activity for building Redwall in the Minecraft game. She includes a detailed tutorial with code. It's just so neat and a great modification for upper elementary and middle grade ages. Nature study and nature journaling, birds of prey and falconry. Will be reading The Hawk of the Castle. I think this might be my favorite book out of the pile. It's about a girl and her father, a falconer at a medieval castle. So first, I love how the protagonist is a girl. Also, the clever shift of perspective by the author in the lyrical storytelling text, and then the informative explanation text boxes on each page. The illustrator takes us back to medieval times with these detailed, vivid paintings. I appreciate all the angles, the close-ups, and the aerial views of the hawk, and all of the information on falconry, from tools to preparation for going out on a day of hunting to prey, and just the day in the life of the practice and the sport. We're going to work on a nature journal entry page, likely a hawk, with our usual nature journaling supplies, notebooks, and our watercolor Arteza pencils. The next project are just for fun. They're going to be mouse finger puppets. I'd like to work on these with my littlest one, Luna, although Bella might want to join as well, as she does love hand stitching and embroidery. But I think Luna will enjoy actually using these the most afterwards, as well for storytelling and finger plays. And this project will be out of the Red Wall Family Learning Guide, where Amber includes a step-by-step tutorial and templates. For feudalism, my idea is to make some peg dolls. It's been a while since we make peg dolls, and for this I'm drawing some inspiration from the Making Peg Dolls book by Margaret Bloom. Several years ago, I made a set of night peg dolls for my Noah, inspired by this book and the story and book Maximo and the Number Knights, for, again, my Noah at that time, who was learning the quality of numbers through that book. And they've been played with so much that we definitely need a new set. But this time I'd like to make an entire medieval set to show social, political, or feudal hierarchies. So a set of king and queens, lords, religious leader, maybe knights, and peasants. We will definitely carve out some time for some more skill building on hand stitching and embroidery and weaving. We have some hand stitching projects to finish here, so I figure we'll definitely start there. And here's our basket of supplies. We'll reference to our picture books for inspiration on the clothing embellishments. There's a page in this DK workbook as well that I'll go ahead and tap out on clothing. I also have this kit of binding tools, and I'd like to work on some leather stitching and binding. I just haven't sourced any leather yet, and I'm not sure on the project, so on exactly what we'll be stitching just yet. Candle making. We've made beeswax candles in the past. We've made them in different types of containers and seashells, and we've rolled them, but we've never dipped tapered candles, and I'd love to try that as one of my one-on-one projects with my Bella, my 10-year-old, and maybe my teenager. We have a few candle making supplies on hand already. I also want to try to make envelope wax seals with loose parts, maybe from loose parts that we can forge from the outside, and I thought these tops might make good handles, so we'll see if that works out. A family coat of arms and illuminated initials, and my supplies for this. I'd love to create a needle felted family coat of arms as a collective project. So create one maybe as a tapestry type of thing. So that's one idea. We'll likely take a vote, or use watercolor paper, pigments, and dry watercolor palette for a combination technique, and each person creates their own using our watercolor supplies. So Heirloom Jars by Bella Luna Toys. Right now we're really loving this watercolor paper. It's 140-pound heavyweight acid-free cold press watercolor paper, and the brand is Chalky Crown. For our illuminated initials, I thought it might be fun to experiment with these inks by Winsor & Newton and calligraphy tips. My teen has used them, but I have yet to play around with them, and I haven't sourced any foil yet for the illuminated element of the initials. Last but not least, and definitely not least because this is how we generally open our day, with opening activities, games, and we're learning how to play chess. This is a very inexpensive, basic plastic set of chess, which is all we needed for now. I have my eyes wide open for an heirloom set at an antique or thrift store. Our library offers a homeschool chess club, so after the holiday and the winter communal sicknesses, I'd love to sign up for that as well. We're self-taught right now through YouTube, and the kids are loving it. Brandon the Brave by How About Toys. This is an adventure-filled introductory tile-laying game for children. It's a combination of strategy, luck, placement, puzzles for problem solving. So the players are trying to complete various heroic deeds by matching different colored areas on the tiles. To do this, the player needs to arrange their field tiles to set up the right locations or sites for the task at hand. The first player to meet all of the challenges wins the game and immediately gets to join Brandon the Brave on his journey roaming the land. This is intended for 2 to 4 players and recommended for ages 5 and up. Snatch, a Birds of Prey game by The Good and the Beautiful. This game includes 64 amazing cards designed to help children recognize, identify, and learn about the unique characteristics of these birds of prey, also known as raptors. There are 8 categories of species or 8 types of birds of prey. So sharing not only beautiful images or photography of each bird, but also interesting facts about the bird's habits and habitat. Each type of bird of prey has a color group to help younger children identify which birds fall into each type of raptor. Symbols for each category are also included for players with color vision deficiency. The goal is for each player to get rid of all their cards first, but be careful with drawing a snatch card, which will make you draw 8 cards or swap with another player's deck. Alright friends, if you stuck around until the end of this video, you're awesome. I know this video was long, but my goal was to show you in detail my planning process when putting together a main lesson or unit study block. And I hope you were able to get some understanding of that process, or even better, some ideas from today's video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in any resources that you saw today, please check the description box, and that's for all of my videos. I always try to link as much as I can. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your love.